Today on Live with Lori. Lori talks with State Representative Tom Goodson as they prepare pork chops with a twist. Coming up now on Live with Lori.
Welcome to Live with Lori, where we're always serving up political food for thought. Today, our guest is Representative Tom Goodson.
Hey, Lori.
Hey, Tom. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the kitchen.
Looks wonderful.
We are going to be cooking pork chops because I know that you're a Southern guy and pork chops is...
The extent of my cooking probably would be pork and ribs and chicken. Well, I've always liked cooking, but I'm not a gourmet cook like you are.
Well, thanks. You know, in the South, pork is one of the 4 food groups, right? Mm-hmm. It is.
What's the other 3?
Biscuits, gravy, and sweet potatoes, maybe?
That would be it. That covers my upbringing.
Okay, well, what I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you start slicing up. I've got some sweet potatoes that are already sliced up in here. I'm going to have you finish slicing this one. Have you ever used one of these?
No, ma'am. I'm more accustomed to a pocket knife.
Well, I'm going to have you hold this. Okay. Hold this with this hand, right. And then just don't use your fingers like this. You want to do it just like this, and when it gets down to the end, we'll use this so you don't cut yourself.
Okay.
That's a mandolin. And while you're doing that, I'm going to ask you about politics.
Sure.
Because that's what this is all about. How'd you get involved in politics?
I've always had a great concern of our county and our state. Went to Bill Posey 10 years ago and said, I'd like to be a state representative. And he said, Tom, you don't have any service, and you need to maybe find something. So ran for the Pork Commission. Right. And served on it 8 years. Then the state seat came up. I chose to run for it, and that's where I am today.
Okay. Well, what does your family think about that? Because I know that you've got a couple kids, you've got a couple grandkids. You know, has that interested them in politics?
My wife probably would be the one that would say the least about it because she just is not that type of person. But my son is not that type of person. He's more like his mother. My daughter's very much interested. My grandson, who's 8, Holden, is a fanatic. He's already campaigning. Good. He's quite the young man that likes to go to Tallahassee and it doesn't take him long to get tired and bored with us, but he does come.
Well, what I just did, I've got, do you know how to crush those up? You just crush them up. We've got some butter crackers that we're going to use for coating our pork because that's what we're going to get started on while these sweet potatoes boil. These sweet potatoes I've cut up, and they're going to be for a sweet potato and apple gratin. We're going to kind of go Southern with a twist today. That's good, and when you're done, we're going to dump them in here. And we've got some rosemary that I picked up out of my garden. These little dandies are great for herbs.
Can you grow that locally here?
It's out in my backyard. So what is your family, you know, what is their take on you being away? I mean, I know your kids are grown, but, you know, your grandkids, you kind of...
Well, that's probably what I miss the most of my grandchildren because they live 2 doors down from me.
Really?
Yeah.
How nice is that?
So Holden and Marissa are always riding either the lawnmower or the golf cart up there on the afternoon. So that being said, now Evelyn just retired as a public school teacher after 38 years. So she's going to come to Tallahassee this year with me, which that'll be better, and lobby the education committees, which could be dangerous. Okay.
Well, I was going to say that, you know, is that... Now, do you agree with all of her stances on public education? I mean, obviously, if she's been a teacher for that long, then you've been a part of it, and you've been...
Yeah. I would say this to anybody that looks at any bill that is before the House or the Senate. Me, as a representative, I never really think there's a good 100% bill.
There's not. I would agree with you.
So the education bill had some good points, had a lot of bad points. But it was going to pass, because if you know back, Senate Bill 6 failed the year prior. Right. And all they did was... They got their ducks in the row, and it was coming. So in the House, you have 72, 74 people, and only so many Democrats, so you control the House. Right. And it was a leadership bill. It was going to pass no matter what, and it passed. Now, teachers, I know I've never met a bad teacher. Right. I have never met a bad teacher. My wife works, through the night sometimes. She buys materials out of her pocket. So Some of the stuff, hopefully, we will be able to help teachers more this year. But with the economy, the governor's promised help for education. So I hope he stands up to that. Okay.
Speaking of bad teachers, I mean, there's, my son's been in public school, and he, granted, there are a lot of great teachers, but he did have a bad teacher. I had to pull him out of the classroom and put him in a different classroom. Right. Your wife, having been a teacher for so long, what is her opinion on tenure?
Tenure, I think, was something that that we grew up with. It's been there forever. Tenure could be good or bad, depending. She's experienced bad teachers, and they were hard to get rid of once the tenure set in. But usually, principals transfer them to another school, kind of like that. So she was not happy with losing tenure. Not that it mattered to her, but her point would be this: okay, if you get an incoming new teacher and it's starting out in Brevard County, and you have a yearly contract, then how could that teacher possibly buy a condo or a home, knowing that her contract might not be renewed next year? So there's no permanence to it in a way. Right. In a way, there's not. So that might hurt them, and those things maybe. The FCAT, which is definitely an issue, because I'm not sure if I could honestly say to you, did we pass the FCAT last year or did we fail it? Because one day we passed it, the next day we failed it, or I think we failed it then passed it.
Right.
So DOE has got some serious problems in education. Now, how are we going to correct those? I don't have the answers. And if anybody out there has the answers, please get with Amy, my LA, because it is. I don't serve on any education committees because my wife was a teacher. I didn't want to.
Right.
I don't serve on any healthcare issues because that's another can of worms.
Right.
So, good or bad, we've got to go on, and we've got to correct some of our mistakes.
Well, I agree with you there. But stay with us, because we're going to finish up the pork, we're going to pop them in the oven, and then we're going to turn up the heat on Representative Goodson.
When we come back, Lori ties down Tom's thoughts on joining the legislature.